here. One
And
last
I will
test.
thank both of you for not turning in an 8,000-word story today.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, I am going to do the countdown. Jason, if you're going to do a lot of typing, remember to mute and cast. Just cast.
Yeah, I don't plan on doing a lot of typing.
Yeah, but if you need to, it's okay. Just remember to mute. All right, 5, 4, 3. It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything in the world of games so you don't have to think for yourself. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is...
Hey, it's Stephanie.
Hi, it's Jason.
In today's episode, we're going to go over some news. We're going to talk about some games. We don't have a second segment because we have a pretty hard stop that we got to hit. And, you know, it's fall, so there's always a lot to talk about just kind of in the news and what we're playing anyhow. But before we get on to all of that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. You can get more from Stephanie, me, Jason at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, you can email the podcast at games+podcast@VentureBeat.com. We also have a Twitter account that's at GamesBeat or at GBeat Decides. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, there's an audio version of this show. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, a bunch of other places wherever pods are caught. And then finally, if you like the show, give us a rating. It helps people find it. We're going to hop right into things, but I want to point out the reason we're not having Mike on here is because I'm furious with him. I'm just mad. He's getting to play Mario, and I'm not. And really, he can't talk about Mario at all until a couple days from now. So I figured it'd be easier than having him come on here and try to make up some BS to talk about instead. It's just kick him off the show entirely and have you guys on. So thank you for coming and just being better than Mike in every way possible.
Oh, you're welcome.
Happy to be here.
So yeah, why don't we kind of get into it and start with some of the games that we've been playing. Jason, why don't you kind of kick it off? I've been trying to play some Divinity Original Sin 2 when I get some chances. I haven't had a lot. So why don't you give me motivation to get back in there?
Well, okay, so I was supposed to be reviewing this, and about 22 hours in, my save got corrupted.
Oof.
Yeah.
And so for a game where the main story is like 35 to 40 hours, that's a big problem.
It's a big
when
chunk.
you have my schedule where you have the 2 kids to help take care of and a house and a wife and blah, 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 it makes reviewing things a little hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
However, so I'm almost back to where I was, which was in the middle of Chapter 2 when my save corrupted and I had to restart. So the things I'm really liking about this, first of all, the combat system, there's 2 different parts I really like. The first part is the interactions between elements and your abilities, such as if you get everything wet and then you electrocute it, you can stun people or freeze people, and then you can get them frozen to where they're paralyzed. I really enjoy that. The second thing I'm really digging when it comes to the combat is you have armor for physical attacks and then armor for magic attacks, and then you just had your health pool. So that way, when you approach an enemy, you have to decide, okay, well, where are they strongest? Their physical armor or their magic armor? Then you have to decide how you're going to attack enemies that way. And I'm really enjoying that. What makes that really good is, just because you have a magic spell doesn't mean it's going to do damage against your magic armor. It might actually be having to deal with the physical armor you're wearing first. So that really opens up a great deal of strategy and makes the game not as static when it comes to combat, instead of just bloom, 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 and just hitting the hit point pool. That was kind of a silly sound effect.
No, it was a good one. I actually that actually helped me understand a little bit. I had kind of pieced together that was what was happening just a few hours in.
Yeah, it doesn't explain it to you at all.
No, yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
you really do. But then you kind of realize, like, it talks about physical armor. It like brings that up a lot, like this, it affects physical armor, or it's like dampened by physical armor. I'm like, why like point out that it's physical armor? Like, what is that? It's an all armor physical. But then, I put 2 and 2 together, and I saw the different bars and meters on each health thing, and how like one thing I was doing was bringing down another person's meter in a different way. So Once I started figuring that out, I'm like, oh, okay, this really is kind of more, like you were saying, dynamic than some of the other games. So
yeah,
I appreciate that.
I really enjoy its writing. The first chapter especially had some very good emotional hooks with some of the characters you meet. Like when you get the option, there's an evil witch you're fighting, and you can decide, to flirt and even kiss her before combat starts, because she's going to attack you anyways, because she's really cruel. Like, she can save the dragon, so she's really cruel. But she also wants to kiss you beforehand. So, there's something there that was just really funny. But then when you do that, something really interesting happens. It has no effect on the gameplay at all. It's just a very interesting story thing. And then you find a blind magister. The magisters are the bad folk who are imprisoning anybody who has the ability to use source, and all your characters do. You're sorcerers. That's SOURSE.
Another thing that it took me a second.
And that's a very nice emotional hook. The second chapter, to me, doesn't have as many of those emotional hooks, but instead it does take the story in some intriguing places. There's some smuggling dwarves that are very interesting. And then I really like this above ground dungeon that's called the Black Pits, which involves oil and some really nasty creatures that come out in this one very long epic combat you're in. I'm really liking it. It's getting up there to now. I'm trying to decide. Okay, well, do I like this better than I do Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of Amn, which is my favorite RPG of all time.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, it's good that you can even have that conversation after all this time, like with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's nice. Let me ask you about the game real quick. Two things. Well, one thing, because I can't remember the other one right now. The first thing is, what character early on... Oh, I remember the other thing. But first, what characters do you suggest that I try to stick with, like, or that I should have in my party? Is there anyone that stands out?
So if you're not playing as Fane, have Fane with you.
Okay, I am Fane, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm very excited about that.
I like having Los with me.
Okay.
Because she's the one who's got the demon in her head.
Yes.
Beast is fun to have with you. He's the dwarf who's a pirate captain.
Haven't met him yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, I have Sabine, the I'm saying her name wrong, but she's the elf assassin,
right?
Who is a little crazy.
Yeah, she's pretty hardcore.
In my first playthrough, I created my own character, and in this one, I'm playing as Fane because I realized that you kind of want to play as one of these characters.
Yeah, these are this like the undead or like the actual dead characters, these skeleton guys. I really like the way that the skeleton dwarf lady looks, where she still has the curvy armor, but she's just a skeleton in there. Yeah. It's really good stuff.
What's really cool about undead is if the people realize you're undead, your enemies, they'll cast healing spells on you, which hurt you.
Right.
And poison, of course, makes you better.
Yeah, that alone kind of made me very excited. I'm like, I could go in here and just play it like vanilla fantasy game, but kind of going in there and having even just like that basic thing twisted on its head, where poison heals you. I was like, that really introduces a lot of situations where I can maybe play creatively. It might force me to be creative, so I was excited to try that. The other thing. How do I drop people from my party so I can accept someone else in? I was trying to figure that out for a minute, and I gave up.
Well, you either talk to them.
Okay.
And you tell them there'll be an option for them to go away. Or when you're bringing in somebody new, that option to drop someone should appear.
Okay. All right. So maybe there was just a weird point in the story where I wasn't actually going to get this person in my party. Okay. We should keep moving. Like I said, we had a hard stop. Why are you playing Dragon's Dogma right now? I know it's a good game.
Well,
I'm
playing Dragon's Dogma on the PS4 for two reasons. Number one, because Dragon's Dogma was one of my favorite RPGs of the PS3, Xbox 360 generation. Right. And the second reason I'm playing it is because I'm playing it with my kids.
Okay. How is that working for you? Are they digging it? Are they getting it?
Yeah, because we made the character together.
Okay.
So I helped out. So I'm playing a guy who's basically as big as you can be. He's red-skinned with a mohawk, but he's a wizard. But he looks like he's a big burly fighter. Mm-hmm. But he's not. He's a wizard, and that's because those were the choices my kids made. And having your children help you make a character is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, that's cool.
So basically when I'm playing it with them, they make all the decisions for me. I'm just the person who's doing the controls.
And they understand the decisions. They're not just like candy and toys, more toys, trucks, explosions.
I don't know if they understand all the decisions,
but they're able to make one.
But they're able to make
give them
them,
like two choices.
Such as, okay, do you want me to go over here or do you want to continue this quest?
All right.
Oh, let's go over there because we haven't been over there yet.
Okay.
Or it's like, hey, do you want to go around and just smash these boxes and see what's in them? Yeah, let's go do that.
So you're a human joypad for kids that can't quite use joypads right. All right. Yeah.
Well, they could. Well, my 5-year-old couldn't. He couldn't very well because he's. But my 7-year-olds could. But it's just something that we're doing together as a family, and it's a lot of fun. And we're really enjoying doing that together. You can have fun playing with your kids without playing a co-op game. You can make things co-op with them.
Yeah, that sounds like something that might make more sense in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
You have been playing something that is more new than even Divinity, Etrian Odyssey 5.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? This is a series that I've tried a couple times and I could never penetrate it.
So it's kind of like going back to the basics for this series.
Mm-hmm.
So
and just real quick, for people that don't know, it's a RPG series where it's like you go like screen by screen, right? Is that still how it works?
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned dungeon crawl,
right.
like a wizardry or a might and magic, and you're mapping it with the touchpad of the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to draw your own maps and make your own notes. So that makes it a lot of fun. But over the years, it's become bigger in that you would have airships and you would have these extra areas you could go access. They went back, Atlas went back to just going, okay, we're going just into the dungeon this time. Getting rid of some of that extra meat. Adding some different races that also give you abilities in addition to your class abilities. So it's a more focused game, and I'm really enjoying it so far. But what's been really nice about it is, for me, and so I'm probably maybe attaching more to it than it's there. But when I was started really getting into it was when the fires in the North Bay of California hit, and my mom's and my brother's home were threatened. And in the past, I probably would have just stressed eat like crazy. But I've been learning how to manage my weight better. And instead of stress eating, I just played Etrian Odyssey. And it saved me from...
Let's go. That's awesome.
What I probably would have been in the past, putting on 5 or 6 or 7 pounds.
What do you think? Like, what is it about the game? Is there something that it's doing with your brain that is kind of maybe touching on similar pleasure centers or something?
Well, yeah. First of all, you get totally engrossed in exploring and opening up new areas and creating new weapons with stuff you find when you kill. Okay, so in order to make new items with weapons, armor, consumables, you get them from the items that monsters leave when you kill them. So it's like, oh, okay, so here's the hard nut monster, and it leaves these little nuts, and then it makes an armor for you when you sell them to the store.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it. But part of it also is the areas, but then the strategic thinking that comes with the stronger monsters, the FOEs, where you have to work your way around their patterns to avoid them in the dungeon, because they only walk during specific patterns in the maze. It might go like that, back and forth. And once you do that, then you decide whether or not you're ready to take them on or not.
Excellent. So is this a game you're going to stick with for now, or are there other games coming along that you're going to drop it? Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. Might take me a long time to finish it, but I'm definitely going to stick with it.
Another question about the series, then we can move on. Is this a franchise that you want to move to the Switch, or how do you want Etrian Odyssey 6 to work?
I want it to go to the Switch. My question is, how's the mapping going to work?
Right, that's what I'm wondering, too.
You don't have the touchpad.
Right, exactly.
But I would love to see it on the Switch because it's a portable series. It would not work on a console or on a PC. It's a portable.
Okay, Stephanie, why don't we move on and see what you've been playing? Why don't you go ahead and start with the spooky game you've been playing the most?
The spooky game?
Oh, is it
The Evil Within 2?
Yeah. Are any of these other games scary? I don't know. I'm looking at your list. I'm pretty sure Evil Within 2 is the one that's supposed to be scary anyhow. Is it scary? I guess we could start there. Is it actually scary?
No. I mean, I have a pretty high tolerance for like gore and stuff, so it's not really like it's scary in the sense that you have to manage your ammo and resources and things like that, but it's not really that scary.
So is that scary or is that tense?
I guess it's more tense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared of losing my progress. It's that kind of fear. It's not really, you're not really scared of what's happening on screen, in my opinion. So.
It's goopy though, right? All the videos I've seen and the images, I haven't touched it. Lots of
Goopy?
white goop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty goopy. You pick up green goop and red goop, and there's white goop. There's just goop everywhere. So I guess if you're scared of goop.
Well, yeah, what is that about? Like, what is goop? Is what I'm asking now.
Isn't that the question we all ask ourselves?
I've always wondered. Yeah.
It's just the green goop is just stuff that the zombies drop, and then you use it to level up. And then the red goop.
Why do you do this before you say zombie?
It's not. They're not really zombies. They're like sort of zombies. They're like, it's not very well defined. You know, like they're called the Lost. And you
can't just call your zombies zombies, and your zombies can't just be zombies anymore. That's like so like 2012. Got to be something else now at this point.
Post Walker era, you know.
Like even Resident Evil 4, they weren't really zombies, right? They were something else. I forget what they called them.
Yeah, what are they? They're infected. I don't know.
It was like a Spanish name because it was a
Are they traditional undead though, or are they created by something else?
They're created by like a mental condition because everything takes place inside a virtual world called the
So they're
STEM.
not dead.
They're not dead. They're just dead-like-ish.
Okay, so
they're dead adjacent.
They're like brainwashed, huh?
Yeah, they're like brainwashed mutants, basically. They like kind of turn into mutants, and they have these white squiggly things inside their head when you like shoot them, and then they drop green goop. You use it to level up because it's a video game.
Sounds like America, man. Sounds exactly what's happening in America today. So everyone realizes the Earth is really flat. They're just a bunch of Walking Dead goop monsters.
Yeah, 2017.
Exactly. Okay, so did you play Evil Within 1?
I didn't because I tried watching a few playthroughs, and it just kind of seemed like, kind of like Resident Evil 4, except not as interesting.
Right, not as good. So, you went in this one pretty fresh. Did it win you over? I mean, you said it wasn't scary, but is it... Like, I didn't find Resident Evil 4 that scary either, but I really love that game. Is that kind of what they're going for here?
I think so. I mean, they tried to do, like, the semi-open world thing at the beginning. That was kind of cool. Like, I feel like the weakest part of the game is the writing, but the actual gameplay is pretty enjoyable. Like, I enjoy stealth games. So I liked playing it.
What do you mean by stuff games?
Stealth games? Like where you're
stealth
around?
Yeah.
I heard stuff. S-T-U-F-F.
I have allergies, so it might be kind of croaky. But yeah, like there's a lot of sneaking because you don't have that many bullets, So I thought it was pretty fun. I thought the first boss was kind of an edgelord, but, it had some cool visuals. So I don't know if it won me over per se, but I don't think it's boring anymore, I guess. So.
Fair enough. If I'm looking for like a October game though, would you like recommend it? Like a game that to play before Halloween or something? Yeah, maybe there's better games out there.
It's a little expensive for what you get.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's like
personally.
Right. It's still one of these traditional $60 single player games, and it feels like you can get scarier games that may be more compact and well put together in the indie games category that might do the same stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I think. I like more atmospheric horror, like Anatomy, like Kitty Horror Show, that kind of stuff where it's much more, it's much more about the concept and then playing with the concept of scary things versus like zombies.
Well, and too, let's face it, with your generation, what's scary is student loans.
That's right.
Yes. And health insurance.
Let me ask. I have heard that this game has an open world portion. Did you? I mean, is that something that you could experience, or is that something you could bypass? And then, how does that work with like a game that's supposed to be scary? Like, can't you just avoid parts of the game and just walk past it?
Yeah, you can avoid some of the encounters, which is actually kind of cool because. You don't go into an encounter expecting something scary. So when it does happen, like there's this like ghost girl that like kind of follows you around, and she only appears when you trigger her in certain sequences. and you can just like not trigger her at all.
Huh.
So sometimes when you're wandering around doing side quests and following, basically, you pick up these resonance signals, which kind of lets you know when there are side quests or like ammo or resources nearby. If you decide to like follow up on that, then sometimes like crazy stuff will happen to you, and other times you can just, you know, you just find like shotgun shells. But it's kind of like a, you know, it's kind of a crapshoot, which is kind of an interesting idea.
Right.
I just wish that had either remained consistent throughout, or there was more story payoff, because there's basically like notes that you can read and like audio files you can collect, but it doesn't really expand on the world, so the payoff doesn't seem like it's there.
Okay, yeah, that I enjoy these immersive sims that build their story out that way, but it always feels like in the best ones it leads to somewhere that does have an oomph, has a punch at the end, you know, a punchline or whatever. But you didn't feel that with what you were doing in this open world, and as you were finding the story through this environmental exploration, the payoff wasn't there, and just that, that none of that stuff led anywhere, or how does it not pay off?
It just doesn't pay off because it doesn't. So like the big question for me is like, why is it's like this big organization called Mobius? Why is Mobius creating this virtual world? Why do they want to take over the world and plug everyone into it? Why is everything like, you know, falling apart, and why are people turning into these zombie things? And that doesn't really get explained at all. You know, so a lot of the notes are just like, oh no, stuff is happening.
Okay.
Oh no, there are zombies. And it's just like, well, yeah, you know, like I'm here, I can see it with my own eyes. You know, so it doesn't really, it's supposed to be like, ooh, it's spooky, like someone was here and now they're not because a zombie got them. But, you know, it doesn't really, like the first couple times it builds atmosphere, but after that it's sort of like,
yeah, sounds like missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can move on. What game do you want to talk about next that you've been playing? Oh, Jason, if you have a question, you can ask it. Go ahead.
I didn't have a question.
Yeah, shoot.
No, I was going to ask, well, what about your play? Because I thought you were going to have us move on to something else. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I wanted to kind of go through her list, and I'll finish up, because I haven't been playing too much, so.
I'm just being an old man right now.
Yeah, God, Jason, why are you so old? All right, Stephanie, so yeah, what game do you want to talk about next that you've been playing recently?
Well, I just finished High Hell, which is really fun. It's just like a fast-paced first-person shooter from the guy who made Heavy Bullets, and it's published by Devolver Digital. So just finished a review of that. It's just pretty fun. There's not much to say about it except that it's just really quirky and just like really fast-paced, and it's just a lot of fun.
Just the look reminded me of 13, which is like an old GameCube game, like Roman numeral 13.
Geez.
Yeah, that cel-shaded shooter. Remember that, Jason? Yeah, it reminded me of that just in terms of the way it looked. But the way it played, it looked just kind of, yeah, like you were saying, like a fast-paced Doom, maybe.
Is it sci-fi? Is it?
It's kind of like, it looked like Die Hard, kind of.
Okay. Yeah, it's.
Like
you mean High Hell or 13?
Yeah, High Hell.
High Hell.
You're just like infiltrating Satan's.
Oh, you are? Okay. All right.
Yeah. And then that's like it.
Right,
it's pretty fun.
So Doom.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
I've seen this game in action a couple times. You showed me some gameplay, and I'm gonna pick it up. It looks awesome.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you know, Devolver Digital makes so many, publishes so many good little games.
Right.
All with masked protagonists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very into masks. Yeah, they
killing bosses for some reason. They're raging against the machine.
All the characters are going to take on masks, and it's all going to be the same person. I don't know who, but it's going to be the same.
Next April.
Why don't you touch on "Bury Me, My Love," and then maybe we'll get into a little bit of Assassin's Creed.
Sure. So, "Bury Me, My Love" comes out, I think, later this week on the 26th, and it's a really intense game, but I highly recommend it. I've finished it a few times, but like I haven't gotten the good ending or a good ending. It's based on this woman's story. Like, she fled Syria and made it all the way to Germany, which is like a 3,000 mile trip, and it's based on her conversations between her and her loved ones. So it's a mobile game, and you play as her husband who's still in Syria, and you have to help her make these decisions as she's getting to Germany. Like, you have to help her decide, should she take this route or this route? You know, who should she trust to help her get somewhere safely? And it's all via text messages, like a text messaging interface. And it's like really, really intense because you know it's based on stuff that people are really going through. And
because it's taking place during the Civil War in Syria.
Yeah.
She's a refugee.
Yes, it takes place during 2016. So like stuff is happening in Syria, stuff is happening to her on her way to Germany. She's meeting like thousands of other refugees, and it's just like, and it like kind of tells you a little bit about the politics and the history of all the locations she's at, but it's more about that personal connection between her and her husband, and so it's really great.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like maybe some examples like of how that works, because I would imagine like it's not ham-fisted trying to bring up American 2016 politics. It's very much about these two people and the decisions they have to make, right? Like that, like it's very, very focused on them. Is that how it works?
Yeah. It's like, for instance, one decision is like when she goes to Bulgaria, you know, like I think it's Bulgaria, she can decide to try to add a connecting flight to make it further to her destination. But if she does that, then she's going to have to go through airport security, and you have to decide if you're willing to risk going through security without a proper visa, or if you're going to risk just like going like a shorter distance and then having to figure out another way to, you know, make it all the way. So it's like little like sort of real life decisions like that kind of tell you about what it's like at the borders, you know, and kind of gives you a perspective into what refugees have to go through when they're in camps, you know, and how the resources are divided amongst like all these people who suddenly appeared and need a lot of help. So
yeah, that gives me like just kind of anxiety thinking about it, because I have like, that's what the way I am in my life, where if my wife needs something and she's texting me and she needs help, you know, I'll be sitting there on the phone trying to help her make decisions, and it's like that stuff weighs on me, and usually it's just like what food to get to bring home. So it's very trivial stuff. And then to try to like empathize in a way that would put me in a situation where I am thinking about, you know, almost life and death, you know, life or death adjacent again. Yeah, that would be, I could see why it would be intense. This is on mobile platforms, you said?
Yeah, so sometimes she'll have to stop texting you because she is running out of battery or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait for a push notification from her. So it's like someone actually
Whoa,
texting
okay,
you.
that's incredible. So like on your actual phone, like you have to put the game down, and then you just got to wait for the push notification to say the game's ready to play again, but really it's just your wife is texting you because she got her battery, you know, charged.
Yeah. So
That's
like
kind of ingenious.
Yes.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait to play this actually. This sounds like a really smart way to convey what is happening over there.
More importantly, do you feel like you learned anything about the experience of refugees?
I think it's not anything that you wouldn't know if you've been reading the news, but it really puts a face on the conflict. You know, like if you know someone who's personally like a refugee, then maybe you have an insight into this, but I personally don't. And so playing this game, really, I haven't felt this emotionally connected to a character in a really long time. Like, I actually really care. Like, I've gotten a couple of the bad endings, and it actually is just like, oh, God, you know? No, my wife. So, so like, I think that it really... It causes like an emotional reaction now when I hear stuff about Syria, where before you're sort of removed, like you feel bad and empathetic, you know, but you don't feel like kind of the gut punch that you get.
And I think that's maybe more interesting at this point, because I think a lot of people have try to do the thing where games as education, games that here are some serious topics, and games could be a way for people to learn about this stuff. And yeah, of course it could be that, but it seems like games can do the thing where it's like a Spielberg movie about a real war conflict, where no, you're going to learn about the human element of these battles and of these tragedies and what people actually go through. And when you think of those things, you'll think of that person who in that even that movie that, you know, is just retelling a true story, but you'll think about their plight, and you'll associate with that, and you'll have those that newfound feeling, that newfound depth of feeling, thanks to experiencing their story. And games, I think, haven't realized that there are ways to do this, and this one sounds like one that kind of nails it. So yeah, I'm totally into this.
Yeah, I think it's really great. I mean, it's not like fun, you know. I think we can move beyond the discussion of whether or not games have to be fun.
Yeah, clearly.
So,
I mean, of course not. Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they do not.
Yeah. I mean, if people don't want to play games that aren't fun, that's their thing. Feel free, but the games themselves don't have to be fun. All right, let's move along. I'm gonna pick that up. Assassin's Creed. You have Assassin's Creed and the Invisible Hours here. Are you gonna are you picking and choosing which one you're gonna talk about, or?
Those. Yeah, we can. I haven't played that much with Invisible Hours, so those are just like my 2 in progress games.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically a VR game where it's similar to the interactive theater performance Sleep No More.
Oh wow!
Which basically puts you in like a hotel physically. That's like where Macbeth, like a version of Macbeth, is happening all around you.
Right, and you're in close proximity to the actors,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and interacting with the actors, and you can overhear parts of the story. You can choose which plot lines to follow. So it's like that, but in VR, and it's about Tesla's assassination or murder. So you show up at the house, or you like kind of make your way to the house, and then he's been murdered. You're a detective, and there are a couple suspects, like Clue. You know, there are a couple suspects there, and you have to decide who to follow and which like clues to pay attention to. So I've only spent about maybe 1 or 2 hours in it, but it's like a really cool concept, and it works really well in VR. So.
Excellent. Well, then let's go ahead and let's get into Assassin's Creed then. We're recording this beforehand, but the preview sort of streaming embargo should be up. The review embargo is when? It's later this week, right?
It's the 26th, I believe.
So
yeah, something like that.
And it's coming out on the 27th.
Yeah.
Yes, so along with Wolfenstein and Mario. So how without reviewing the game or giving any reviews sort of statements, is this game better than Wolfenstein and Mario? Just joking. You don't have to answer that.
That's not fair.
No, okay. Tell me what this game is. I feel like, according to the embargoes as they're written, you can at least tell me what these games are, or this game is, without having to spoil the story. Just what am I doing? Is it fun, or or are you having a good time up to a certain point without reviewing the game? Go ahead.
I can't really talk about plot points, but so far it's fun. It's like really open world. Like the map is huge, and of course you're assassinating a lot of people, But I personally haven't played any of the Assassin's Creeds since like the first one, so I was not expecting like mini games and like detective work. At some points, it's sort of like CSI Ancient Egypt,
Yeah, that's something that was introduced a few games ago, and I really like that stuff. Is that
like that CSI Ancient Egypt?
Yeah, totally.
CBS is working on that.
Oh yeah, of course, without a doubt. Are you finding this stuff interesting? Is it keeping you playing the game? Is it keeping like the pace up, or are they just distractions?
So I think it's interesting. It's fun, but it kind of, people are going to kill me for this, but like it kind of goes back to the same issues I had with the Evil Within 2 open worldness, which is when you have like a really dramatic storyline, and like the main character Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins has like a really dramatic, serious storyline, and he's like a serious dude. When you have a serious character and a serious storyline and it's open world, it kind of diminishes the impact of his storyline, because you're like, oh no, I have to go do this thing and it's super important. But first, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to race some chariots, It kind of diffuses any narrative tension that's there. So like it's fun, but I think it's like keeping me from getting really sucked into the game. But like the world is beautiful. Like, I'm glad that you still do the thing where you jump on top of the spire and it swooshes around, and shows you like the vistas around you. There's a lot of hunting, which I also wasn't expecting. So it might just be me. I'm like a latecomer, you know. Like
no, I mean it's interesting to hear like your perspective on that because for me it's like okay, clearly like they're moving towards this sort of very samey Ubisoft model of open world game where the Far Cry games have hunting and that system worked really well. So of course it's going to be in the new Assassin's Creed games. So yeah, to me like it just makes sense. But it was interesting to hear like how you come to that and like you said you didn't expect it, but like is it interesting? Like is that interesting? Are you having fun with the hunting? Does it feel like you're achieving something?
I think it's fun, but like I don't know. It's going to really depend on how the story pans out for me, I think. I can't really make up my mind until that. I mean, it's fun. Running around in a beautiful world and, like, shooting things is always going to be fun to some degree, you know? So, like, is it enjoyable? Yes. Is it going to be worth the price tag at the end? I don't know, you know? Because this stuff is, like, pretty expensive. And if it's not bringing anything new to the table, then it has to execute really well, in my opinion, anyway, since I don't play a lot of these games.
So it sounds like you're talking about like there's a battle going on between the single player story campaign and the open world itself. For me at this point, I came off playing Zelda this year, and it felt like the story sort of got out of the way of the systems of the world and just let you and kind of gave you permission to go and say no, the systems in the open world, that's the reason you're here. The story stuff kind of maybe just sprinkle some stuff here and there. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. Doesn't really matter. And I think games that are open world maybe should be moving in that direction where they embrace their open worldness. Does Ubisoft do anything in this game to reconcile the sort of the fight that the open world is having with the single player campaign, or do you feel like it's just these two separate silos that you're picking and choosing at any one time?
For me, it feels like two separate silos, as you put it. Like, I think, like, the reason why Zelda was so great was because you're discovering the world, you know, and there's so many surprises and so many things that you would stumble upon. Like, the first time you see that thing flying in the sky, you know, and you're like, what is that? But in the world of Assassin's Creed Origins, I feel like I'm only like 15 hours in, and I'm already starting to get the same sort of side quests and like same like outposts and stuff.
Does it feel like Dragon Age Inquisition in that regard? Or because to me it felt like the open world of Inquisition was a separate game from the story of Inquisition.
Yeah, I think so. Like I think you're either choosing to do one or the other. You know, like I'll do the open world stuff to like grind and level up. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to go back to the main quest now. But it feels, like you said, it feels totally separate. Like, it doesn't feel cohesive to me. So, I don't know. Just my opinion so far.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. And that's fine. I'm not too surprised by that. Do you think that someone coming at the game, like, for example, the way I play most Elder Scroll games, I'll engage with the storyline for a few hours, and then I will never, ever touch them again, and I'll still play hundreds of hours of Skyrim or Oblivion or whatever.
You're the guy who tries to get as many cheeses rolling down the hill as you can.
Exactly, yeah. I'll just mess around. I'll do that, but I mean, I'll mess around with the side quests and stuff. Those side storylines, I'll often enjoy those way more. But, that's all part of the open world. You stumble across that kind of stuff. Does this game enable that sort of thing where I can maybe just at a certain point ignore the story, or is that not an option, or does it not feel like an option?
It doesn't really feel like an option to me. Like, I actually think the main story is kind of interesting. Like, I think that Bayek is a compelling lead, and like the sort of more questions of morality that get brought up are kind of interesting. So to me, the open world almost feels like a necessary evil, sort of. I mean, it's like a fun thing, but I don't know. Ask me in like 30 hours, maybe at that point, I'll be like, no.
It's funny though, because our perspectives are different. We're finishing the story because we want to be able to talk about the story, write about the story, do videos about the story, evaluate the story where it fits with other game stories. But if I wasn't doing this for a living, I probably would never have finished Skyrim story, and I just would have continued farting around in it.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for shrines in Breath of the Wild, to be honest, like
Right.
because I never had to review that, you know. So I'm just taking my time looking for ghost horses and stuff.
I don't regret rushing through that game at all. That was a good time too. That was one of those weird games where I think it works both ways. We don't have to talk about Zelda. God.
No, but I think it's something to bear in mind with open world games is, you know, well, does the regular consumer care about the story, or do they just want an interesting world to do weird things in?
Well, yeah, but that's why I asked, because I think one of the key differences is that this character is a named character who has a story and a background, and you don't really like in when we play Skyrim or whatever, you're creating your own character and it doesn't really matter, and you can apply whatever you want to that character and play that role however you want, but it very much is role playing, and Assassin's Creed is role playing light where it gives you this character and the character has a very set story and you're going to go discover what Ubisoft has written for you, and I could see in a number of ways how that would conflict with just exploring the world at your leisure. And basically what Stephanie sounds like she's saying is like that is kind of a conflict. At least a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think if the side stories were a little bit more compelling, because I don't mind, I love side quests,
right.
You know, but
Me
in
too.
this case, I don't know, it's because sometimes you get games where the side quests are more fun, more interesting.
They tend to be. They tend to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because they don't have to do sort of like the big good meets the big bad, and then they fight, and then it's all tied up with a bow.
But like
in this case, yeah,
the way like side quests will work in a lot of open world games are, especially Ubisoft games, like they'll introduce the first one and it will be part of the story, and then in the world you see like the 25 other places where you can do that same side quest over and over, and like it increases in difficulty over time and it unlocks different rewards. But it's pretty much the same thing each time. Is it still that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I've gotten like 1 million like heavy blades now, and like I don't really use them either because I prefer just like a light sword or a spear. So like, I feel like they're just giving you weapons or they're giving you a chance to level up. It's not really, I mean, like you're learning about how people are like oppressed in ancient Egypt, but it's not like specific historical details. It's just like bandits came and they're bad. Can you help me? So it's just, yeah, it seems like a missed opportunity so far. But maybe I'll change my mind. We'll see.
Last thing, the map, when you do get all the side quests or the main quest or whatever, does it just like fill in with like 1 million icons, or does it try to do the Zelda thing where like you're picking the stuff by going up in the tower and looking around yourself? Like how busy is the mini map or the map with icons?
It's pretty busy because it kind of comes pre-populated.
Right.
You don't even need to go to an area to
Okay.
find out that there are quests there. And then you can send, you have like a little falcon, like bird.
Your drone, yeah.
center.
Your drone from Watch Dogs
yeah.
2, yeah, it's been repainted into a bird, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then she just like tracks like targets for you, and then you just go straight there.
Okay.
Which I think is another reason why it feels like it's a linear open world. Like all the side quests feel linear.
That's Ubisoft. That's totally their MO. That's how they've been doing this stuff. They give you 1 million options, but if you want to just, they also make it really easy just to beeline right through it. So yeah, not surprised.
Yeah.
Alexa's yelling at them. Yeah.
I know, my Alexa. I'm sorry.
Okay, I got a couple games. I'm just gonna talk about it real quick. I've only played like maybe an hour or two of Fire Emblem Warriors. It's a Warriors game. It's a Muso game. It's like Dynasty Warriors. It's like Zelda, like Zelda's Hyrule Warriors from the Wii U from a few years ago. And it's just got Fire Emblem characters this time. I guess there is some strategy element that I haven't uncovered yet, but from hearing other people talk about it, it sounds pretty whack. So I'm not looking forward to even like interacting.
Now, I really enjoyed Dragon Quest Heroes, especially the second one.
Right, but I mean, do you feel the need to play another one right away? If you do, that's okay. Maybe you are one of those people now, Jason, and that's okay. You can admit it. This is a safe place.
Well, for me, it has to be a world I care about, and I don't care about Fire Emblem.
Okay, yeah, all right, that's fine. But there are people that play every single one of these games. They'll play every single Dynasty Warriors, and that's totally cool. Do your thing. It's never going to be for me. But even like at this point, I'm starting to think like even applying the worlds I do like, I can maybe go a little bit longer without playing one of these.
I would totally play a D&D Muso game.
There's something there. Like if it was Star Wars,
that would be a lot of fun.
Maybe I'd get into it. Who knows? But probably not even then.
Can you imagine going through a field and killing 185 beholders?
Yeah, I mean that stuff I guess is still satisfying to a point when you see that number just keep going up, and it almost feels like a clicker game, like an idle game where you're just tapping the screen. And I'm just like tapping the button and like, oh, 100 people killed, 200 people killed. I'm like, all right, I get this to a point. Golf Story's the other one. I beat it, and I maybe like 17, 18 hours. I didn't have much left after I talked about it last week with Mike. I think I really like that game quite a lot. The problems are stuff that a lot of people have already touched on. The putting is a bit confusing just because the slant of the green is not physically represented in the world, so you don't like see arrows like pointing down on the grass to say, oh, you're going to curve this way. It's just one arrow in the top right, and it takes a long time to sort of figure out what that arrow even means is going to happen to your ball. But I figured it out. I was able to get through the game, no problem. It's never very hard. But it's just charming all the way through. It's just really...
that putting thing because it's not a serious golf sim?
I definitely think that's part of it. Like, it's very forgiving in its putting. So, like, you can't read the green very well, but if you get the pixel of the ball near
I can't either. I've been playing golf for almost 35 years.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. But, like, if you get, like, the pixel of the ball, like, sort of near the black pixels of the hole, it'll go in. Like, it's going to go in. As long as you're not going too fast and it bounces out or whatever. It's very forgiving. So that's why I think it's one of the reasons it didn't bother me, but I could see people coming from the Mario golf games that did this pretty well in 2D kind of being disappointed by that. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that the developers are like, actually, maybe we can update the game and put that in there since we have a bunch of money now, because I think this game is selling very well. I think the reasons I like it, it's just because that golf mechanic of just hitting the button once to start it, hitting it to stop in the power zone, and then hitting it to stop in the accuracy zone. There's just something about that it's timeless at this point. Everyone recognizes it as video game golf, and it feels good. And to do that for more than just playing on courses or playing like stroke matches, stroke matches against other people or whatever.
Solving all your problems with a golf swing.
Solving all your problems with this golf mechanic is very smart. It's it's like the way that games in the past have applied, RPG mechanics to every other genre. Applying the golf mechanic to every other genre, it's really smart. It's like a bunch of RPG side quests that just like, here, how are you going to, like, what golf clubs are going to use? How are you going to do it? Can your swing solve this problem? It's really good. And I was very happy to do that for, 17 hours, like I said. That's pretty much it, though.
I'm looking forward to getting a chance to dig into it later.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those games that'll be very good if you have like a long holiday weekend or anything like that. It'll be good for that. Okay, why don't we hop into the news? Just kind of get through this stuff. We do have we got about 15-ish minutes left, so we'll just kind of hop through this stuff pretty quickly. I actually printed it out, so we can just look on there. Let's start with kind of the big story that happened over the weekend. NeoGAF, the video game message board for pretty much, it's populated by a lot of industry people, both from the media side, development side, publishing side, everyone in between. Excuse me, and then a lot of fans.
Fandom side.
And the fans, exactly. It's been around for a long time. It's very popular in all of those circles, and it was shut down over the weekend after the administrator of it, Evil Lore. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. I didn't print it down here, but Evil Lore is his online handle. He was accused of sexual misconduct, and this is not the first time that that's happened. In response to that, a bunch of threads of very angry people asking what is going on here, because this is something they've heard before, rumblings of, and now it sounds like it's this woman pretty much confirming it. They wanted to know what was happening. Those threads started getting shut down by Evil Lore, I believe. In response to that, every moderator except for one ended up quitting and resigning from the site. And then Evil Lore could not keep up with the incoming posts. Seems like he shut it down, and then he hasn't quite brought it back up. Like it's kind of technically back online, but now it says down for maintenance or coming back online soon. I believe at this point that we're recording this on Monday night, it's still not back online. It's a weird thing, but it's not surprising that this is happening right now, because we are coming off a period where people are kind of sick of this stuff, especially coming off Trump and then going into Harvey Weinstein, who's had more than 30 women accuse him of various degrees of sexual assault. And if you're going to be in a position of power and this is something that gets thrown at you, you have to. There's a couple ways you can handle it, and trying to immediately shut it down. And then it sounds like he's now gaslighting the woman, saying that she is out of her mind and stuff. These are probably not the ways to handle this situation, even if on the off chance he is not, responsible for this behavior.
So, for people who want to learn more about this, Patrick Klepek at Waypoint wrote a fantastic piece going over the whole thing. He talked to some of the people involved. The evil lawyer, his name's Tyler Backup.
Thank you, yeah.
And then, Kat Bailey at US Gamer has a nice little thing on it too today.
I haven't read her, so I'll have to read that for sure.
Yeah, you should probably go see that too. For me, it's really hard to talk about it. Not in the sense that, I'm glad to see somebody who's facing sexual harassment, and even serious charges like this, having to deal with the consequences of it. But I'm just not attached to the NeoGAF.
Yeah, I visit there every once in a while. It has this reputation for being very insidery, and it takes a while to get your name approved to even be a junior member, and then it takes even longer to be a full member and all this stuff. So it's got this exclusivity club about it, and it has done a pretty good job. And this is all the moderation team that quit of keeping many of the trolls out. It doesn't put up with the Gamergate bullshit, for example. And that was nice. I think that's one of the reasons that it had the staying power, is because they had a very attentive group of moderators.
What's really cool here is those moderators themselves saying, we don't accept this.
Yeah, no, those moderators are
not
legit.
Acceptable.
Are legit, for sure.
I haven't had a chance to read through the Waypoint article yet, but I do remember one of the posts saying that the moderators were helping sort of delete some of the threads. Do we know if that's true or not? Because what I heard happen was they were helping him sort of cover it up until they could figure it out internally. And then when they asked him what statement he was going to give, apparently whatever he said really upset them. Maybe he was refusing to take responsibility for it. And then that's when everyone quit. But I don't know if that's
I think there's a possibility is that is the case. Again, GAF has a policy about not posting stuff without evidence or whatever, and I think they were using this to say, okay, just for now, we're going to delete these because we don't want anything to turn into a witch hunt. So we'll figure it out, and then once we understand what he's going to say, maybe we'll allow one thread to happen so we can discuss this there. And there is some consistency there with how they've handled some other stuff in the past. At the same time, it's tricky. It's a sticky situation where you're not, this is when it involves your own management and how you handle that. It's going to be, it's a horse of a different color at that point, and there really is no good answer. So I could see that still being true. And then once they heard from him and being very upset with them, they backed off. I think there were, like I said, there was at least one mod that stayed, and there might have been maybe some other mods that were more sensitive to him or more patient with him for some reason. But we don't have the inside story there. I think
what I'm interested in seeing though is where does the discussion of sexual harassment and our culture in the game industry go from here? Will more people be taking responsibility? Will more men come out and say, this is what I did in my past, and I feel awful about it, and I apologize for it? Or will more women come forward and say, this is when I was harassed, or even worse, and I feel like I can say something now?
Well, I think we have to assume and hope that that women are planning that right now. I think the story in Hollywood right now is that there is a massive spreadsheet going around with among every woman in Hollywood, where they are all comparing notes on who has harassed them and who has assaulted them and who's done what, so they can have strength in numbers when they come out and announce this.
This even goes farther than that. It goes to our language. Over the years, I don't know how many times I've heard people say, talk to the PR girl. Well, no, that's not appropriate. Don't say that.
It absolutely goes the way that women are first considered when they come in here. I mean, Stephanie, you might have already experienced, you've been doing this professionally with us for a few months. You wrote about gaming before. I know that you've definitely gotten emails that feel sometimes like they have already made opinions on you that might not fully be based on anything real other than that you're a woman. So this is not something that's just going to evaporate.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't know if it's going to change until more women are, in positions of power where you feel like you can say this stuff without getting professional repercussions, So.
And I mean, I think that's the biggest overall thing here is that it's not just about punishing evil lore, and there are a lot of people out there that are just trying to score points against the SJWs of NeoGAF and like laughing in their face that it was closed because it does have that reputation for like not putting up with Gamergate. But it's not about like him just getting punished. It is about getting past this and then saying, okay, we have to do more to diversify. We have to do more to bring in people of different color, of different genders, of different sexual orientations, of non-binary genders. Just getting more people in here and letting them have positions of power that almost certainly they have the experience for and that they deserve on multiple levels, and not just because it's some diversification program to be PC, because it hasn't ever been that. What we have here is just a culture where a lot of white men started this a long time ago, and they used their very small Rolodex to bring in their friends, and we've done that repeatedly for years and years and years, to the point where the industry reflects the problems with our culture and our gender as a whole. And Evil Lore is probably just the beginning, I would imagine, and hope that I'm hesitating because it feels like there has to be more. There's got to be more. Like we look at Hollywood and all these men in power that have done this, and it's not just Weinstein. We hear someone else every single day now at this point. I don't think gaming's special in that, it's just a couple of people here and there. It feels like it's going to be a lot more. We're coming off of Naughty Dog being very, very dismissive of someone, trying to bring problems to them. It feels like we're going to have to just let this work itself out, and then from there, not say, I'm exhausted of that, exhausted of all that. Wasn't that so hard that we had to hear all this stuff all over again and over again and over again? We have to say, okay, now that we've dealt with the problem of actual abuse and actual assault, we have to go further and deal with the underlying issues of not having that diversification. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like for some of these people, if you're an abuser, it's going to be hard to change your mind and not to abuse people. But so the next best thing is just to make you be afraid of getting caught.
Absolutely.
And so everyone needs to just keep talking about it, even though it's like emotionally exhausting. Like when everyone was doing Me Too, and it's just constantly everywhere. And it's something that, as a woman of color, I know myself and everyone I know has been harassed or worse,
Mm-hmm.
And so like to see it on your feed is really hard, but you have to keep talking and letting people know that this happens. And if you're not ready to share your story, then other people need to be willing to share their stories, so that these abusers will know that, people are talking, they're going to get caught eventually.
And just as a man, I have to figure out more ways to let people know that they can tell me, and then I can find ways to connect them with someone that they would be comfortable telling. I don't want to ever be an impediment, and it feels like there's no reason they shouldn't see me as anything but an impediment, just because of the way that they are always treated by every other man when they come forward with the stories of being abused. So the onus is mostly on us to find ways to be different and to be more open and present ourselves in a way that says, no, we really are going to believe you. And it's something I don't really know how to do yet. I'm trying to figure out ways to be better about that. But I can't just let this pass and then go back to being the way I was. We have to continue to be better. And yeah, like you said, we got to make the people that aren't going to stop afraid. And I think there's something to be said for just like a lot of people talk about virtue signaling or performative, like just performing the business of being politically correct. But there is something to be said about when you perform that, it is at a certain point that perception becomes reality. And if you're performing rage at someone for doing something wrong just to score points, people will see through that eventually. or there's also the possibility that maybe you'll actually start to fall into it yourself and realize, actually, no, I really do believe this. My life's better because I'm behaving this way and because I've tried to do this stuff, and really focus on the people that have messed up. Yeah. We can move on because we don't have a ton of time. I know, Jason, you got to go pick up your kids in like 15 minutes, so we'll move on. I'm sure the story's not done. We'll come back and talk about it more in the future. And, you know, if NeoGAF comes back, who knows what it's going to be like. I don't know. I think probably the best case for just that site, irregardless of all these other issues, is for Tyler just to step away from it and give it to someone else. Give it to them. Give it to that moderation team. Okay. We'll go through these really quickly. The first one is Activision has patented basically a method of convincing people to purchase microtransactions. The idea is that if you go in and you spend money on something in a game, the system of matchmaking you against other players in the in online multiplayer sessions will reserve a spot for you in a game that will make you feel good about having spent that money. And on the reverse side, if you haven't spent any money, you are more likely to go up against people who will basically embarrass you because they have better items or something like that. This really struck a nerve this past week because we are in a period where a lot of people are becoming very impatient about loot boxes and how the data that publishers have about us is being used against us to get us to spend the most money possible. But my question is, and this is based on Activision saying this is not in any of their games right now. I actually don't see how this could be in any of Activision's or Blizzard's games, just because I don't think they have any pay-to-win games. The only games I think this would be useful in, and I'm sure it actually will be implemented there if it's not already, are King games, which are the mobile games that Activision owns. Candy Crush Saga, stuff like that. But I mean, maybe I'm not thinking of all the possible uses. Could you guys see a situation where this could be used with cosmetics?
Maybe Hearthstone, like if you're matched against a player
Well, there
who's
you go.
bought
That
a
is-
lot of decks,
Never mind, you're right. That's exactly a good point. Yeah, that's the one I wasn't thinking of. Jason, you're
and then
muted.
you're like,
Jason, you're muted. Can you? Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
So you're faux pas. You're on a ladder where you're playing people that's of your rank. So say I'm rank 15, I'm playing against people who are rank 15. So those folks are either, if they have lesser collections than me, then they're probably better of a player than I am.
Right.
Or just have a better deck. Or, you know, we're about the same skill level and have about the same collections. So I don't
Right.
see how that's going to work in Hearthstone because of the way the ranked ladder currently works. Now they're talking about doing a different type of ladder in Hearthstone and making some changes, and maybe that would change. But you know, so many of those games that Blizzard has, you know, Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm and StarCraft, you know, your placement is based on how well you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to say that
playing against better skilled players. So I don't see how that's going to really matter. Some people will say Hearthstone's a play-to-win game, and you know it definitely helps to have a bigger card collection the deeper it goes into a standard season, especially at the outbreak when a lot of the people who don't spend so much money don't have as many cards. But I don't see how in the long run it will matter that much.
I could see them using it here and there in something like Hearthstone, like maybe to juice this one player every once in a while. I doubt it would ever be the thing, at least in a Hearthstone or Overwatch or in these other games, Heroes of the Storm, where it would be one of the considerations in every time it's going to matchmake you. I will say that something I have noted in Blizzard games, especially Overwatch, is it does feel like it's taking more into consideration than just my rank. But it's not like in ways to get me to spend money. I think it's ways to keep me engaged. So, for example, I've ended up in so many Overwatch matches with other people who have the name Grub in their username. So my username is just Grub, and I will be in there with other people, GRUBB, 2 B's, not just like 1 B, like it's spelled like my name. This has happened more than I think is statistically likely to be a coincidence.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, and I.
But that's a conspiracy theory.
Just hold on. This is going to be what you're going to think. This is way more of a conspiracy theory. There's an in-game text chat in Overwatch, and for a period there, I was talking about before every match, I would try to get people to talk with me about RuPaul's Drag Race, I'm like, yeah, let's talk. Like, we're watching an episode right now. We're binging it. Like, yeah, who's your favorite queen? And at a certain point, I started getting into matches with other people who were willing to talk about that, and sometimes even had like the queens on the show, their name as their screen name. Okay, again, maybe that is a coincidence, and maybe I'm noticing that because that was just the thing I was into at that time. But I wouldn't be surprised if Blizzard, of all companies, has an algorithm that does take in like social factors into consideration when they are matching you up with other players. I think that is a possibility because they want to keep you engaged in these games for a long period of time. And if you and me have the same name, like that's a reason to start talking. Maybe we'll be friends now. Maybe we'll start playing together. And that'll be a reason to come back. Oh, you like this same thing as I do. You like the show on Bravo. Let's talk about it. Maybe that's a reason to come back. I wouldn't be surprised if that is something they've already been experimenting with for a long time and is already in there and actually serves as the basis for this patent.
Everyone, it's worth noting that Jeff lives in Colorado where marijuana is legal.
I mean, we can talk about that if you want. Yes, okay. I won't. I will admit that there is totally a possibility I am seeing patterns where none exist. I try to spot that myself when I do that. But I'll say I'm not the only one that's pointed this out. I've asked people about it, and like a few other people have said, yeah, I totally think they're doing that. Absolutely.
Well, I'm talking to Blizzard tomorrow. I'll ask.
Yeah, ask, please. Yeah, totally. They'll never admit it.
I mean, it's like Facebook targeted ads.
Yeah.
Like social.
I mean, if they have all
social
this
engineering.
Right, if they have all this data, why not use it? Like, of course they would use it. All right, we got to keep going. This is a short one. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is coming to the Nintendo Switch. I don't play any of the SMT games. It is not Persona. Anything else to say about that? Anyone else excited? I'm getting shrugs from Stephanie.
Excited.
Jason's excited. Okay.
Because I love those big meaty roleplay games that you get from companies like Atlas, and the Switch needs more of those. It doesn't have a lot yet, but this could be the first signs of Atlas saying, okay, well, first we'll start with this, and then we'll bring over some of our other games, and then we'll bring Persona over, because I will totally play Persona again on the Switch.
Yeah, we'll see. It feels like maybe Persona is going to stay on Sony for a while, but hopefully not. Hopefully they, like Persona 5 Golden comes over to the Switch, and I'll totally play that.
And the more companies that support the Switch, the better, because it's important to have more players in the console market than just Sony and Microsoft.
Absolutely, yeah. And it seems like Nintendo's in a situation where they've clearly established a third pillar in that space, and we just saw. I mean, we can go into the story right now. September MPDs, where we have Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo all doing relatively well to the point where, and Stephanie, you wrote the main story on this. Do you want to go down? Do you have the rundown in front of you? You want to actually just run down some of these numbers here of how the industry ended up in September? If not, I could just read it off the paper that I've printed off.
Okay, I can pull it up if you want.
I'll start it and let me know when you got it. Maybe you can go over the top 10 with me. So total spending in the United States for retail, physical retail, and most digital, not all digital sales are represented. For example, PUBG is not represented, which is a big hole, but just a lot of digital sales. $1.21 billion, and that is up 39% year over year from $872 million in September. So with a healthy Nintendo, that's a huge bump. Destiny 2 represents a huge part of that, but if Nintendo wasn't there, that number wouldn't be nearly as big of a jump as it was. So, like, really kind of big boost. In the hardware market alone, $316 million. That's up 34%. That's not just Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Switch. We also have the Super NES Classic, which was actually the top-selling piece of hardware in the month. So Switch was number 2, and it was, outsold PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And then the PS4 actually made the most money just based on revenue, not unit sales. Why don't we get into the top 10? Stephanie, do you have that now?
Yeah.
So
you're talking about in 2017?
Yeah, just like September, the one that we wrote today. The number one.
Okay, so of course Destiny is leading.
Yes, of course.
That was the biggest game to come out in September,
and it sounds like just based on this first month, might be the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, but we still have time to see.
We absolutely do.
Will it be Call of Duty?
Right, and that's probably still not going to happen, but it might be closer than ever before, which is kind of amazing. Destiny 2 is not just the best-selling game of September. It came out and in just less than a month, it's now the #1 best-selling game of 2017 year to date. It's number 3 over the last 12 months, only behind Call of Duty: Infinite Warfare and what was the other one? Battlefield 1.
Yeah, what's really interesting, I thought, was the marketing for Call of Duty on TV right now, getting the old gang back together, and it's showing how people have changed since the last World War II game for Call of Duty. I really like that. That resonated with me, and I wonder if it'll resonate with other people.
Yeah, me too. Real quick, this is just a quick digression. Do you think Battlefield 2 is the next game? They just did Battlefield 1, but they've already done Battlefield 2. And is it World War II?
I don't think we'll see Battlefield, the Spanish Civil War.
No, but I mean, they've already made a Battlefield 2. Never mind. A stupid digression. All right, Stephanie, what else stood out to you on this top 20 or whatever for September 2017 MPDs?
The top 20?
Yeah, I mean, just what games stuck out to you? Did anything perform well that surprised you? I mean, NBA 2K18 came out, and it was number 2 on the list, and it's also one of the best-selling games of the year so far. So it kind of shows we're in that fall season.
Both NBA games charted in the top 20. That's nice to see.
Did they? No, the NHL.
Yeah, NBA Live is number 17.
It's in the top 20. Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm not even looking at the full.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
there are 3 sports games right in the top 5, which doesn't surprise me, but I'm still kind of like, I haven't played any of those.
I mean, NHL's right there in the top 10 still.
Yeah, it's a good showing for NHL.
Right.
What I was taken about, what surprises me the most was the number 13 for Pokken Tournament.
Is that really low? Do you think?
No, it's a lot higher than I thought it would be for a re-release on Switch.
Right. Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty good showing. I guess we can hit some of these other new releases, like we've already mentioned a couple of them. Madden came out at the end of August. This reporting period, I think, was August 28th through the September 30th. So 2 days of Madden weren't on this list, the first 2 days, but the rest of the sales for Madden were on there. So it was number 3. FIFA 18 was a new release in September. It was number 4. Or did that come out? It might have come out in August. Mario and Rabbids, though, that was a new release, and that came in at number 5. That's really impressive because it is a weird strategy game. It's got Rabbids. It's only on the Switch. And it managed to, outsell something like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which is on multiple platforms, including PC. And it's got the Marvel license, not Rabbids. So you would think it would have this bigger audience, but it just didn't work out that way. So, yeah, really impressive. Grand Theft Auto 5 is still at number 7. NHL 18 at number 8. Breath of the Wild at number 9. Getting back in the top 10 for Zelda. I think that just shows that people were able to find Switches. They're buying them, and they're buying Zelda with it still. And then Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege at number 10. That game has really made a huge turnaround, and Ubisoft has turned it into a monster. People are just not going to stop playing that one. Any other highlights from this month, guys?
Yeah, take a look at number 20.
I don't have the full 20 in front of me. You tell me what it is.
Number 20 was Crash Bandicoot, which came out in June.
Wow, okay. Jeez.
So people are picking up games right now, and I don't know if they're buying consoles or if they're starting to buy Christmas gifts yet.
Yeah, I mean, hardware sales were up, so I think these are still people just buying games for themselves.
Yeah, but Crash at number 20, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that game was a pretty big success. It was maybe more of a success in Europe than it was here, but still a huge success. Yeah, I think we hit everything else. The Switch, SNES, Destiny 2, best-selling game. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have. I'm doing this now. I do this now where I crush up the paper and then I throw it at the camera because that's fun. It's a fun thing to do.
Tone of finality to it.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me, I've gotten too lazy to hit the cough button now. So that means it's time to end the podcast. Jason's got to go pick up some kids. So, Jason, why don't you start? Tell everyone where they can find you on the internet.
Well, they can find me at GamesBeat, and they can find me on Twitter at Jason_Wilson, all lowercase. And I'm not, there's so many different Jason Wilsons. I'm not Jason Wilson from the Washington Post. People keep tagging me as that.
Does he have the full one without the underscore?
I don't know.
Fair enough. All right, Stephanie, how about you?
GamesBeat, obviously, and on Twitter at Sweijuchan, which is SWEIJUCHAN.
And I'm Jeffrey Grubb, Jeff Grubb on Twitter, YouTube, youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. We do the PUBG family dinner every Friday night. This is a thing where we just get a bunch of people from the games industry together to play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And then we invite you guys in. You come watch on twitch.tv/GamesBeat. You can join us in the chat. You can actually play the game along with us. It's been fun. We've been going pretty strong the last couple of weeks now. It's been multiple months at this point. That might start being a little bit more difficult to do as the year comes on. Like this Friday, Mario comes out. I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
So I also want to put in a pitch here for Stephanie and to remind folks who are listening that she is our main indie games reporter. So if you have news in the indie space, be it VR, be it AR, be it PC, be it consoles, talk to her.
It's been
all your indies.
It's been actually, this has been like really nice. I keep thinking about that. Like, oh man, we get indie games and like she's just gonna play them, and then she's gonna tell us like how good they are, and that is like such a relief to like have someone on that stuff. Like I never ever would have heard of Bury Me My Love, and I'm so glad I have. So I'm gonna download that as soon as we're done here. And with that, I'm gonna hit this music, and that's our outro music. And
good night, everyone.
Gonna say goodnight to everybody. We'll be back next week with Mario, Super Mario Odyssey. Mike should be back unless something tragic happens to him, and I inherit a Switch for some reason. And who knows? Things happen. It's crazy. Until then, have a good week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.